All right, folks, this is Mike Koneski, the Fantasy Sports Boss, here to discuss quarterbacks and the quarterbacks specifically that you should not draft this season. All right, now right off the bat, those who play in single quarterback leagues, non-superflex leagues, you only play the one quarterback, really should be waiting on drafting a quarterback. It's that simple. That's one of the tried and true methods of success. Yes, we would all love Josh Allen. Yes, we would all love Justin Herbert. Yes, we would all love Patrick Mahomes, although not as much as in years past. So, in essence, you really need to avoid drafting a quarterback early. Now, very interesting stat. Last year, the 12 highest scoring quarterbacks averaged 18.8 points per game. All right, this is from ESPN's Field Yates. I wanted to share this. Field Yates, good job. The top 12 quarterbacks, again, I'll say it, they average 18.8 points per game. That's 12 guys deep. That means all 12 members of a standard league can have one of these quarterbacks. Running backs, only 3 averaged 18.8 per game. So it shows you that you need to go running back early as opposed to quarterback. And since it goes 12 deep, averaging 18.8, there is no reason to reach here, even though, again, we'd all love Josh Allen and his dual-level high-end production running and throwing the football. So with that out of the way, that's the obvious point. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, you could even throw him in there. Pat Mahomes, Justin Herbert, who I said earlier. Those 4 guys in particular are strong fades for me because I'm not going to be in any position to take any of them because I'm not going to use a high draft pick on them. Now, the quarterbacks, beyond those 4, just because that's only based on ADP. I love the players. I just don't love the ADP. The quarterbacks that I will not draft, even if they fall to me. Let's start off here. Ready? Kylo Murray, Arizona Cardinals. I am completely opposed to owning Murray or suggesting anybody draft Murray. All right? As great as Murray has been running and throwing the football in a sometimes very explosive Cardinals offense, each of the last 3 years, he has faded as the season has gone on. Now, you could point out to his smallish frame, his small stature, the hits piling up, his body starting to break down. That is absolutely a very key cause of his decline as the season goes on. Let's face it, somebody who's got a smaller body like Murray does can't withstand that pounding. So, each of the last 3 years, whether he's gotten hurt or whether he stayed on the field, the production has plummeted when you go from October to November and especially into December. You want to have your quarterback peaking or doing his best work when fantasy leagues are decided, not doing his worst work. And that's what Kylo Murray brings to you. He never has shown that he's going to be productive down the stretch of a season. And we saw how pathetic he played in the playoffs last year in the playoff loss. He was completely horrendous in that game. That shows you exponentially, and that started weeks earlier, that Murray, as the season gets decided fantasy football-wise, he's going to give you the least amount of points as opposed to September and October when he's fresh and he's really putting up some big-time points. All right, the next guy that I'm going to be fading and I'm definitely not drafting is Jalen Hurts. Listen, I drafted Hurts last year, but as a backup. All right, the price was right. I took him on. He was a backup. He did great things. Jalen Hurts is made for fantasy football. He picked up a lot of garbage time points. He runs the ball really well. He's Lamar Jackson light. The problem with Hurts is he doesn't throw the ball well. And even the Eagles themselves are not sold on Hurts. This is the season that Hurts has to try to prove himself. And let's face it, they've definitely given him the toys. They brought in A.J. Brown. They drafted Devontae Smith. They have Dallas Goedert. They have a really, really good trio of pass catchers for him to target. But his mechanics are not great. He is improving, but his accuracy has always been a problem, even going back to college. He's more athlete than quarterback. And again, it does set up well for fantasy football purposes, but the fact that Hurts' ADP has risen exponentially compared to a year ago, and the fact that the Eagles are not totally sold on him and they have a very capable Gardner Minshew behind him, that scares me, and I'm not willing to pay that draft price on Hurts. All right, and as far as Hurts is concerned, you can get Trey Lance, 4 or 5, maybe 6 rounds later, who has the same kind of game. Now, we haven't seen Lance do it over a full season like Hurts has, but they pretty much have the exact same game. Questions about accuracy, questions about throwing the ball, excellent runners, big-time threats running the football. You could say the same thing about Lance as you could say about Hurts. So if you're interested in Hurts, take the discount, draft Lance later on, and then, also pair Lance with maybe a Kirk Cousins or a Derek Carr, so that way you're protected if Lance doesn't develop. All right, as far as the other fades, Joe Burrow. All right, listen, I love Joe Burrow. I think he's fantastic. But the hype is getting a little out of control with Joe Burrow, all right? The Bengals did not throw the football at a very high rate, and Burrow's touchdown rate was a little unsustainable last year on a per-pass basis. Now, will they open it up more this year? Very likely, because they have Jamar Chase, they have T. Higgins, you know, they have Joe Mixon, who's very capable of catching the ball out of the backfield, Tyler Boyd, who's probably the best third receiver in football. So, yes, they should open it up more. But everybody loves Joe Burrow. I mean, he carried leagues, his owners to league championships last year down the stretch. He was phenomenal. He was fantastic all the way up to the Super Bowl. And so the hype and the ADP are rising to a point where I'm not comfortable drafting him, all right? And then, you know, the offensive line was a complete disgrace last year. They did go out and try to remedy that through free agency and also the draft, but that's going to take some time for some cohesion to develop. And also, Burrow is not a runner anymore, at least not last year. Maybe he's more confident this year. Maybe he starts to pick up some more yards on the ground, but without the rushing aspect of it and the fact that he's so much more expensive this time around, I'm not going to be chasing Joe Burrow. All right, now, this one's a little touchy. Desean Watson. Today, 6-game suspension handed down. The NFL has the option 3 days from now or in the next 3 days to increase it. There's a lot of public pressure for them to do so. But even if it stays at the 6 games, do you want to be carrying a dead roster spot for 6 weeks on your team? And especially for a guy who hasn't played, you know, in a full season. And now it's really going to be, you know, a season and a quarter that he hasn't played. So I don't like to use dead, you know, to allocate a draft spot on somebody who's not going to be playing for 6 weeks. So that leaves me as somebody who's really not going to chase Watson. I mean, if the price is dirt cheap and I compare him with an Aaron Rodgers, who I think will be the 12th quarterback selected out of the top 12, or even maybe even Matthew Stafford, then maybe I would be interested in. But I'm not going to chase Desean Watson one way or the other. All right, as far as the rest of the bunch, I do like the prices on pretty much everybody else out there. Nobody really is, I mean, I'm not going to ever own Carson Wentz because I think he's just terrible. Terrible, he's a human being as a coach killer who can't get along with anybody that coaches him, and also just a terrible quarterback despite, you know, the decent touchdown total he had last year. Mac Jones, you know, I like Mac Jones. He's very accurate, but I think the Pats are going to run the ball a little too much and not allow him to throw it as much to allow the numbers to become fantasy friendly. Ryan Tannehill, I'm over him. You know, he had a little bit of a run where he was a decent fantasy option, but I'm kind of off of him now. Zach Wilson, did not like what I saw. He has every reason to improve this year, but I'm not going to be searching out Zach Wilson until I see any sort of improvement there. Marcus Mariota, didn't like him in Tennessee. Certainly don't like him now in Atlanta. All right, so that's it. Those are my do not draft quarterbacks for 2022 fantasy football. If you're new to the show here on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button. Also hit the notification button because I'm going to have scheduled shows coming up, especially every Friday during the course of the season. Football Friday, where I take questions and go over the injury report and everything else. Late breaking news, anything like that, I'm always going to jump on and throw some videos and some analysis on it. Also, if you don't already follow us on Twitter, @RotoBoss, okay? Follow us @RotoBoss. So make sure you hit the follow button there. So until then, this is Mike Kineski, the Fantasy Sports Boss, and we will talk soon. Take care.